Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we will discuss themes, symbols, some analysis, and iceberg theory in novel Farewell to Arms written by Ernest Hemingway. The summary I have already uploaded its summary and plot in detail. So let's start with it. I repeat again that Ernest Hemingway's personal life is quite similar to this novel. The some of the incidents it's also known as an autobiographical novel because some of the incidents of Ernest Hemingway's life and the incidents mentioned in this novel they are somehow similar. For instance, to work in First World War as the protagonist, the hero, uh, Henry, when he's working as ambulance driver in First World War, in the same way, Ernest Hemingway he has also worked in Italy in First World War as an army man or as a driver, not an army. Of course, when you are working in army as a driver or as army man, you are considered an army man. And he also fall in love with a girl, and the girl was a British nurse. But in this novel, both of them they meet each other, and she died at the end while giving birth to a child. But Ernest Hemingway's love story was ended because the girl, the nurse to whom he loved, she refused to marry him and she wrote a letter to Ernest Hemingway that she would not marry him. So these are some autobiographical elements. They are similar to Ernest Hemingway's life. So this novel is about First World War from 1914 to 1918. Let us discuss its themes. First one is, of course, this novel is a romantic tragedy, an anti-war novel, because the protagonist in the beginning of the novel, for him war was adventure, but as he joins army and he works there, he looks at the condition, the miseries and the sufferings of the people, how the bombs they were thrown, and how the soldiers, he has seen many soldiers dying in front of him. Then his ideas about war they were changed. So he started when he fall in love with Catherine. This was one of the reasons because he was fed up from the miseries of war. So the writer wants to tell us that war sufferings they are very painful whoever observes it, and love is the only remedy to war. If the world it doesn't want to indulge in war, then we have love. Love means love between man and woman, and love also brotherhood and live with harmony among all the countries. And also he criticizes the world powers, the world governments, that why do they initiate wars when they know that the war will bring only sufferings and add miseries to human lives. So love is a response to war sufferings. As the hero, he suffers from war, he is injured, and he is fed up from war miseries, and he finds relaxation when he falls in love. So this is one way to combat or to counter war sufferings. Then we have grace under pressure. Grace under pressure is a term that is widely used. So, the theme of this novel actually should be grace under pressure. Grace under pressure means that when you have an idea or you have taken a stand that this thing should be done in a way, but all the people around you they are criticizing you that your idea or your plan will not work, but you stand by it. You do not panic in any circumstances, in even worst circumstances, then you are a real courageous man. It means that you are showing great grace under pressure. In the novel, one incident uh, was when Henry's knee was badly injured when the enemies they were throwing bombs and his knee was injured. At that time, he was eating something along with his fellows soldiers. So all of them they were talking and they were eating without being harassed or without being coming into panic or without being any sort of fear or threat of the bombshells. So it was quite common for them. This is kind grace under pressure. If somebody who is, listening the voice of bombshell and he runs away, it means that he's a coward. Grace under pressure actually means boldness, bravery, that the one who shows boldness and bravery in any circumstances. So this was the one incident in the novel where he shows grace under pressure. Then again, when he has shot an engineer, actually he was not a soldier, he had never killed anyone, but even after that, he is not in panic, or he's not, quite worried or upset or frustrated. So he moves on as the situation is taking him towards. He knows that what is going to happen, because if they stay there, he knew that if they stayed there, they will be caught. So they are showing grace under pressure, that all the circumstances they are turning against them, but still they are moving forward. In the same way, one example of grace under pressure in nowadays, you can take that, I mean, the people, our media, and lot of other circles, they are criticizing the government that they are not having complete lockdown and all these, you when you watch news channels. But the government is standing at one point, that whatever happens, it will be a soft lockdown, you can say strategic lockdown. So this is grace under pressure, that when all the media, when all your opponents, when every person is saying that you should go in this way, but you have a plan and you stand by it, and and then the time decides that your decision was right or wrong. So this is one example of grace under pressure. uh, it can also be like, whenever there is earthquake, they say that when you face earthquake, you should not run or you should not be panic. Those who stay there act, facing for the earthquake, for the earth to settle, they are showing grace under pressure, and those who run away, they are not showing grace under pressure. Then war and destruction, of course. This novel is about war and destruction, how war is bringing destruction. When there was many of the soldiers, they were killed, and many of the soldiers, they also died because of the diseases. And the common men, they also suffered. You can also say that in the beginning of the novel, when Henry was introduced to Catherine, she says that her fiance, uh, he's he was dead in war. He was also a soldier. So the novel starts from the sufferings, because the one soldier who dies, he has a family too. So his family suffers. So war brings only destruction. That everyone knows about it. So these are the three major themes of this novel, that love is the only remedy of war sufferings, then grace under pressure, definitely. And this grace under pressure, it has also become a term that is widely used in English language all around, all around the globe. So war and destruction, of course, whenever there is a war, there is destruction. Writer criticizes acts of war throughout the novel. In this novel, we have symbols. uh, First of all, it's rain. Rain is actually known as a symbol of fertility, symbol of happiness. But in this novel, rain is used as a symbol of destruction, miseries, death. Whenever there is rain, there is death. First time it rains in the novel, when the soldiers, they were fighting on the front, and because of the rain, a plague, a disease, just like this COVID-19 coronavirus, this pandemic disease, this viral disease is spread all around. In the same way, uh, an epidemic that spread uh, among the soldiers, and about 7,000 soldiers, they were dead because of this rain, and that actually brought plague or disease. And second, when at the end of the novel, when Catherine, she was in hospital, she was giving birth to child, her child was dead, and she suffered from hemorrhage attack, and she also died. And at that time, when Henry moves out of the hospital, it was again raining. So rain symbolizes death and extreme sufferings in this novel. And as far as snow is concerned, snow is a symbol of relief. because in the novel, when the soldiers they were fighting, and in the winter when it started snow falling, because of the snow falling it was difficult for both the armies to fight each other, so war was stopped for the time being, due to this snowfall. So snow actually brings relief for the people in this novel. So snow symbolizes relief. Then here, specifically Catherine's here, here means love, romance, union of man and woman, union of two lovers. Because at many times when the description of Catherine is given in the novel, her hair has been praised a lot by the writer. And then when both of them they meet, Henry and Catherine, uh, Catherine, she, throws her hair around her neck and all that. Those, details they are given there, some romantic details. So here symbolizes romance, love, relaxation, and also a shelter from the sufferings of the sufferings of war, because Henry he was too much upset from the sufferings of war. But when he meets Catherine and her hair also, when both of them they are together, and she opens her hair, and under her hair he feels that both of them they are alone, and there are no more sufferings, and both of them they become extremely happy. So here represents love, romance, uh, a shelter from sufferings. Then we have the most important one, uh, iceberg theory. Iceberg theory was actually coined by Ernest Hemingway. To understand iceberg theory, all of you must have watched the movie Titanic. When the ship was crashed, it actually was moving in a way, and uh, the ship captains they have seen a small portion of ice floating on the surface of ocean water, and they thought that probably it is a small portion that is visible, but it was only one part of it that was visible. About seventh part, seven parts, I mean a big kind of mountain of ice that was under the water, that was not visible. So the ship, when it was passing it cracked, crashed, and then it cracked, and all that sufferings. You watch the movie and you can get it. That is, we call it an iceberg. But iceberg theory is similar to that. It means that when a writer is writing something, the writer must not explain each and everything for the reader. He must hide something. Like he should give just a kind of signal to the reader and leave the rest to the reader to understand, instead of explaining each and everything. Like if one line is written, it should be, Hemingway says that the reader must use his mind to understand the deeper meanings. Instead, the writer is, explaining deeper meanings over and over again. So one only one line or one word is mentioned and the reader understands. But here again he says that if the writer is using this iceberg theory, or giving the reader only surface meaning, and hiding the deeper meaning, but the writer must know the deeper meaning. If the writer is not aware about the deeper meaning, and he has intentionally, unintentionally, because he doesn't know it and he left it, it is actually the fault of the writer. Knowing, when the writer knows everything and he leaves the meaning for the reader to understand, that is actually iceberg theory. Everything should not be explained. In most of the writings, you can say, sometimes there is only one historical word is mentioned, uh, and you understand that what the writer means. There is, you read Iqbal's poetry, Allama Iqbal's poetry. You read, Urdu novels also, Urdu plays also, movies. In most of the movies also, there is one line given, and the rest, you people yourself understand that what actually the writer wants to say. So, in this way, iceberg theory was coined by Ernest Hemingway. It is only common sense Before that, it is iceberg theory has been used by each and every writer, but Ernest Hemingway actually named it as iceberg theory.